Kids are amazing creatures. I love my two girls, and I'm very happy on how they're turning out. Naturally, per their nature, they're really inquisitive, very adept to critical thinking on their own. There's nothing to be taught to them about critical thinking. They just naturally sort of exhibit that quality, which I'm so very glad. And they're quick, as far as their personality, they're quick to point out bullshit. I mean, they could sniff that from 20 miles away. And I think they inherited a little bit of that from myself here. And my wife too. She's pretty good on her own too, despite, the circumstances. But in this video, a little bit of an update, not too much, but the ongoing saga of this high control group that's trying to control or take over your family dynamics through their religion. So my two kids, the youngest being mid-teens, in that age group, and my oldest is late teens, an adult. She's legally considered an adult now. So those are the circumstances as far as those two. And just to add to a little bit of the complexity of this, my oldest, she is a high spectrum autistic person. She has autism, but she's very functional, which in her case it just means she sees the world in another shade of gray. I mean, she talks very well and all that. She's not slow or anything like that, but she needs a little bit of help. And definitely she has it with us as far as the family. There's an insidious sort of encroachment onto her by the JW faction of our family and the local congregation where we live at here now. So, and my wife, she's a spearhead of this sort of trying to indoctrinate my oldest. And basically, I think, and it's, the fruits of their labors show that they're targeting my oldest daughter to, listen to their dogma and, to have a study and all that good stuff. And they're really, applying pressure on my oldest through insidious means, such as, coming over, talking to her and things like that. A few recordings before, a few videos before on my channel, you will see that this one Jehovah Witness lady that my wife has asked to come and supposedly study with my wife. That's the excuse that she gave me, but in reality, she came over to try to informal sort of indoctrinate my kids. While I'm not there, of course. It always happens when I'm at work. But, luckily for me, my kids, they give me a call when she just magically shows up at the doorstep there. And then I just take off of work early and I'm kind of close by and I'm able to be there and sort of, add to the magic, if you will. But this is what I'm facing here. There's no respect for any boundaries. But then again, I did not set any boundaries. I did not, make an ultimatum or denial of, talking or worship or anything of that sort. Pretty much going against the Jehovah Witness playbook on how they see worldly people, thinking that each and every one of them are just going to be hostile and opposing their methods. And in which case, and I've covered this in past videos on how you could use that to your advantage to kind of like be like a boxer and use that to your advantage, knowing their playbook, knowing what moves they're going to do before they even do it. I would say they are that predictable in what they're going to say, do, and project onto their victims out there that they're trying to recruit. They fail to realize that I do go to their meetings sometimes to accompany my wife, and I see all their training sessions on the stage there. each and every week. I don't go each and every week, but when I do, it's the same thing. So they're highly predictable, and if you just nudge them away, do the opposite of what they're expecting, it's like a trail of ants when you break that trail of scent that they have where they used to follow each other in an ant trail. Once they lose that trail, they don't know what to do. They just go amok and start, wandering in all different directions. The same concept works for the Jehovah Witnesses in my experience and observations of how they handle themselves. You tip them off of their course of action, they just don't know what to do. It's not in the script. If it's not in the JW Publications script, they don't know what to do after that, and they get sloppy and get all frustrated like this JW woman that started to try to indoctrinate my kids. The only sort of objections that I had, recommendations to my kids on what not to do at this particular time, was to never get baptized unless you're absolutely sure this is what you want to do. I didn't forbid it or made an ultimatum or give them no choice of what to do. That choice was there on their lap. They could go either left or right on this particular matter. But what I did do diligently was to show them and tell them the outcomes of the consequences of getting baptized in the Jehovah Witness religion. And it wasn't very hard to convince them not to get baptized because, like I said, the fruits of their labors show what that was all about, with examples that was presented in our own family. Grandpa was disfellowshipped for alcoholism. They kicked him out. At first it was a reproof. I guess his alcoholism, he got drunk once too many times and it became somewhat public in a way. And of course, if people start to notice and know about this, they have no recourse but to disfellowship him. No help, no nothing, maybe a visit or two from elders, but everyone else is just cut off, which is the last thing you want to do to anybody that is suffering from substance abuse. I kept, he's got my number, and I've always checked up on him when he was going through that. He's since been, reinstated, and quickly too, I may add. But I think Grandma had something to do with that. This is my mother-in-law, and she's the subject of this particular video here. Then I contrasted that with my brother-in-law. So my brother-in-law, he grew up a JW, from birth till now, and he's probably, physically out, mentally in a way. He's in that, little, what do they call it? A middle ground there. But he was never baptized. He's not an exemplary person. He drinks a lot. He's an alcoholic. Gets into trouble all the time. He smokes. According to the JW thing, their God standards, he has all sorts of women coming in and out of the, where he lives at. He lives with Grandpa and Grandma, his parents. But everyone still talks to him because he was never baptized. And people still talk to him, help him out, give him money, and try to get him some jobs. He's got some level of support other than a person that was disfellowshipped and just thrown to the wayside, like my sister-in-law, who woke up. She is my favorite person of my wife's side of the family. The whole JW clan there. She's my favorite one out of all of them. Very nice person, very good person, very smart person. But she woke up, she tried to sort of talk some reasons with the rest of the family, and they all shunned her. All of them. Instantly. Night and day. But she was baptized. And, they threw her out like yesterday's laundry or something like that. But anyway, this video here, again, is primarily focused on my kids and how JWs do not respect any boundaries. Even though now my kids, in their heads, they don't want the Jehovah Witness lifestyle for multiple reasons. A few that I've just mentioned in this video and past videos. They see the hypocrisy of it all. They experienced it themselves, and so many other subtle, red flags out there that them as being, kids, early preteens, teens now, they picked up on their own. And, I gotta admit, I sort of showed them the discrepancies between, the hypocrisy of it all, myself as well. Just to show them and say, hey, look, this is what's going on. Here it is, proof right in front of you. And they picked up on that, and they are thinking that they don't really want to deal with this thing here. And they have been oppressed, being women themselves and everything, subtly from family, especially from mom and the grandparents. So with that being said, I guess in my video making activism channel that I have here to sort of maybe help out other people out there in my situation, whether you be a worldly person or a JW person, I'm concentrating on my kids because that's the closest thing that I would have success with. Anyone else that are in the JW organization, they're pretty much set in their ways, and it's going to take them their own personal Armageddon to figure this thing out on their own. So that's a big headache. I mean, you just can't help them out unless they're willing to listen. And at this point, none of them are willing to listen. That's my wife. The rest of the clan there are not going to stop, kind of like the Terminator.
Listen and understand that Terminator is out there. It can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear, and it absolutely will not stop, ever, until you are dead.
In trying to indoctrinate your kids, because they're kids and they think they're smarter than the kids, and they're going to pull all their tricks out of the bag, all their recruitment techniques on the kids to get them to join their religion. And here is Grandma, and Grandma, she is the matriarch of my wife's family, a covert narcissist. And she if you look up that word in the dictionary, her picture will be there as a fine example of a covert narcissist. The strangest person I ever had the displeasure of being with. And, it's not like the stereotype of, a son-in-law with the mother-in-law having a really bad relationship. I get along with everyone. I have a wonderful, relationship with my mother and the women in my family, my older aunts and everything. They pretty much raised me. But, so I have no hang-ups like that, male chauvinistic, tendencies or anything like that. This person is really a piece of work. And, these texts that she sent to my oldest, I don't deny the family access to the kids. They can't come and visit us to where we live at now. And that's my wife's doing. She is the one that's setting those boundaries, that she doesn't want any of them to come and visit, except for her sister and her brothers and other people. But the grandparents, they're not allowed to come over yet. She's just not ready mentally to handle that situation with the grandparents. Pretty much the grandparents are not allowed to come over. And it's my wife that set those boundaries, not myself. I just, I'm the enforcer. But anyway, but in the event, I still let them have a relationship with the kids because I do not want to break up families, even though the families are somewhat toxic in that Jehovah Witness environment. The grandpa being an alcoholic and the narcissistic grandma. I'm not going to deny them their due as grandparents to the grandkids. It'll just be highly supervised by one of us, my wife or myself. And the knowledge that I give the kids to kind of like, hey, look out for this, that, and the other, because grandparents love you a lot, but they have this JW brain that makes them behave in a certain way that wants to control your every, fiber of your being to conform to their standards, their Jehovah Witness standard. So the kids, they have their own cell phones and they have the grandparents' phone numbers and texts and all that good stuff. So they call all the time and have conversations. And it's my kids that come up to me and show me this is their word, cringy grandma is sending weird text messages again. And it's a mixed match of cutesy grandma granddaughter relationship sort of talk to where grandma suddenly places informal witnessing sort of techniques within the text messages themselves by name dropping JWs, Jehovah, and all those buzzwords that they try to use to sell their product to people. But in kids terms, with my kids, especially my oldest who has autism, they're trying to sort of capitalize on that situation to get them to convince my oldest to, do what she really doesn't want to do. But in a very condescending way where my oldest is an adult now and she wants to be treated as such. And, but grandma talks to her like she was 9 years old, with 9-year-old jargon and condescending way as you would talk baby talk to an adult, sort of. That's what it kind of feels like, and that's what it is really. And there's some narcissistic sort of techniques to her way anyway. So this is a real live example of what I'm talking about. This is a text message session between my oldest and grandma. Now with the backdrop, this will all make sense to you. So I'm going to dictate this. So my daughter types, it's a picture next to the plus button, and that she was explaining how to send pictures and stuff through text mail. My grandma, or her grandma, is not tech savvy. So she writes, my daughter says, you have been silent lately. And then grandma responds, that is how it is when you are old and gray and you don't feel wanted. Myself and grandma had a sort of a falling out recently because of dad's alcoholism, because she lied to the whole family saying that it wasn't alcoholism when he was sent to the hospital. And I just got fed up because she started politicking as far as what the real reason was, and she's trying to cover up for grandpa so he wouldn't get disfellowshipped again, because it's happened multiple times. So I kind of cut her off from her little speech that she was going to give me, because she was plain out lying to me about the situation. So being a narcissist, they don't take responsibility for anything that they do. So she's diverting attention or blame to something else. She's always the victim. And that's a narcissistic sort of personality trait that they have. A really weird group of people being a narcissist, really. But anyway, that's the backdrop of that line right there. I'll start again. This is how it is when you are old and gray and you don't feel wanted. I do have a very big workload, and I am thankful for the strength to do what I can. Jehovah helps us and always looks for the good in us. I am thankful for Zoom at my age, and I love the new magazine about the kingdom and reading the text every day. I also love to read songs. I was next to you when you sang your first song. that you said you would do when you turned 12. You are amazing. I love you. And sister, and mommy and dad let me know that you are happy and pray a lot. Her grammar is atrocious in this. I don't know if it's because of the technology or her educational level growing up. She's a talker though. She's a very good public speaker, and she could sell snow to the devil if given the opportunity. That's how good she is. And I've seen her in action. But there in this simple little text here, you can see that she's dropping the informal witnessing in this seemingly innocent conversation between a grandmother and her granddaughter, and very condescending in a way. So people don't pick up on this, but others do. I see it for what it is. She is trying to control our daughter to have her, turn into a Jehovah Witness, which my daughter has no plans of doing. And not because of what I said and what I've told her. I just pointed out, the actual truth about all this and the fruits of their labor, the fruits of the Jehovah Witness labor and their techniques, and she sees that in action. And these text messages, there's a lot in between, but it's a lot of, fluff and innocent and real sort of granddaughter talking and catching up with the times. So nothing interesting to see there. It's just the normal things. But these are selected texts that as my daughter will say, was really cringy, and she shared it with me and the rest of the family, and they all laughed and stuff about it, because they all make fun of grandma, but I was really perturbed, but then again, it's what I've expected. So the second slide here, out of that same conversation, beautiful and heartwarming, that is who you are. Love all your pictures. Is sister doing better, trying to sew or play the guitar, read or sing the songs from the meetings? It is a fun way to think of Jehovah and all the wonderful promises that all the wonderful promises that will come true also. When you read a scripture from the Bible, pick out the main word, what it tells you about Jehovah. Makes it fun to study and remember. My daughter writes about her sister. She mostly doing a lot of art like me. She and doesn't even respond to her statement about reading the Bible and things like that. I mean, she's just right to the point. That's her autism trait that she has within her, where she hyper focuses on facts and points within a conversation. But the social cues on her is missing too. She misses a lot of social cues from people's conversation every day. But this is an example of that. The third slide here is Grandma responding, and Grandma she doesn't really answers the questions either. She's got an agenda. She has a narrative in her brain that she has to follow, and so some of the conversation gets ignored from when my daughter starts to sort of respond and things like that. It always kind of circles back to her main motive and narrative that she's trying to project, which is a narcissistic trait within that group of people there. They always have like this fantasy, this running storyboard in their brains that they want to portray to the outside world to get what they called a supply of adulation, a supply of being thought of very well, and a good reputation and things like that. They want to be grandiose and either that or play the best victim that they can. I mean, in this case, Grandma being a covert narcissist, she plays the victim quite more than she does any other thing. But it's a storyboard that's going in her head, and she's sticking to her plan. No empathy, no thinking of what the other person feels or anything. It's all about her and her will to recruit as many people as she can into the Jehovah Witness system. So here's the third slide, and Grandma responds with, "How are you like in school? Will you graduate this year? Do you and sister have a friend in your congregation? We had our assembly on Sunday. A JW kid was baptized. Has Dad gone to any jobs?" She's referring to me. She's all over the place in this text here, so it has no rhyme or reason, but it centered around the JW theme. "Next week it will start raining. Uncle will start trimming our trees," and then the rest of it is just talking about my brother-in-law. But here they have told my kids, this is coming from my mother-in-law and my wife, they have told the kids not to make friends in school, to only make friends within the congregation. And my daughters, they have told me that Grandma would always say that, "Have you made any friends that love Jehovah, that are friends with Jehovah?" That's the buzzword that they've been telling my daughters. And that, everyone else is just an acquaintance, not to make friends outside of the congregation and things like that. So they've been taught that or told that for years, 2 or 3 years or more. But my kids, they'll make friends with anybody, their schoolmates or anything like that. And in past videos, I think I've told a story that my mother-in-law has trashed the reputation of my wife in our old congregation. So with that, not knowing the unintended consequences of her defaming campaign against my wife in the congregation, all the other moms and families with kids the same age as our kids, we wouldn't get invited to functions with the kids or play dates or anything of that sort. None of it. So unintentionally, Grandma has also torpedoed the chances of my kids making friends with kids in our congregation. So here she is telling my kids not to make friends outside in the world, but then again, because of her narcissistic tendencies, has torpedoed the chances of my kids making friends within the congregation. So they're stuck in nowhere land. True story. That is one of the main reasons why we left our old community to move to another city altogether. Because of Grandma. That's the backstory to that thing there. But here she is, not knowing she has no clue what she's done, and all the collateral damage that she made from her campaign of defaming my wife's character in her congregation. Asking about, did you make friends in the congregation, where, they have no clue. So here's my daughter's response. "Well, school is fine. I'm working on my grades. I just socialize with students and classmates only. I focus on my work, and I have only would be put into more socializing." That's her grammar is also sort of iffy. This is my daughter now. "Sister is homeschooling for education," and there's a video about my other daughter's homeschooling and how that backfired on the intent of the JW infatuation of separating kids from the real world. It totally backfired on them. As far as my kids, yes, she is being homeschooled, but she's going to go into high school here in the next year to a regular school. So that's that. And COVID had a big part in that as well. And Grandma responds with, "Is she playing music or sewing?" Sister writes, no, she's doing her own thing. Grandma, the most important thing is that you love Jehovah, which is, not a bad statement. I give her that. I totally agree. But which God? God of the Watchtower or the real God of Abraham, Moses, and, what we read in the Bible? Then again, Grandma responds, and she's getting a little bit more cultier as we go along here with her informal witnessing. Sometimes I wonder if she's even listening to my kid as far as, what she's saying, other than trying to push her agenda. So she responds with, beautiful, just like you could work for a florist on bigger arrangements. My kid, she's taken a course in flower arrangements and stuff in high school, so that's one of her classes. And she sends her pictures of the stuff that she's created. Beautiful, just like you could work for a florist on bigger arrangements. In the middle, you have a thriller, a filler, and a spiller. I don't know where she's going with that. Anyway, over the side of the pot, pretty. She has no punctuation in her text or anything, so I don't know where the sentences start or ends unless you read into it a little bit. But then she writes this. Soon we will be working on making the whole earth a paradise, and we could work together. A little bit of JW jargon or dogma in her response there. She continues, plus we are in our 70s, 76 years old, feel young in my mind, have to have endurance and a good sense of humor, and be a good forgiver, not forgive for forgiver, a good forgiver, giving forgiveness. That's what she meant. That takes a lot of love, which reflects our love for Jehovah. And my daughter writes, yes. And the final slide, and the most disturbing slide out of this whole conversation towards the end here, Grandma writes, wow, I am thankful that you think of me and send beautiful flowers. That is an expression of love. We need to pray to our God of love. We can never thank him enough. Give out the JW cards any chance you get. You will have a good experiences. It is fun to do. And she continues with, you love Jehovah's creations, do you? Wait a minute. Like I said, no punctuations here, so it's kind of hard to kind of keep track of this. You love Jehovah's creations. Do you read about them? The booklet, Was Life Created? Would be fun to read and build your faith stronger, to talk to someone if you got a chance. Are you finished with school? Do you participate at the meetings? Make a friend that loves Jehovah. There's that you have to make friends with people that love Jehovah requirement for JWs to, make friends out in the world. I think about you a lot, and sister too. Do you do some things together for fun? And that's pretty much it right there. That's the end of it. But then she finishes off her conversation with, trying to make my daughter recruit for the JW religion by handing out JW cards and reading more JW publications. Mind you, she didn't say anything about reading the Bible except early in the conversation, but like their weekly meetings, they mostly take bits and pieces out of the Bible and then just fill the rest of the narrative with their Watchtower publications. Mind you, my oldest daughter, the last time that she went to the Kingdom Hall was last year during the memorial. And that was just to please my wife. And I kind of pleaded with my daughter to say that, why don't you go with mom? She's going to the memorial alone and she kind of feels kind of lonely. So if you want to, it's your choice if you want to or not. But, you don't have to partake in anything or do anything. Just be there and whatever. And I told her the backdrop as far as, you know, the black celebration of the black mass of their memorial sessions and things like that. But that was almost a year ago, and that's the last time she went. My other daughter, she hasn't been to the meetings for over 2 years, I would say, at the minimum. So she's not being indoctrinated whatsoever. And my youngest, her personality, she ain't gonna have none of that. So she's really strong-willed and very opinionated, and you know, she's a handful, and I love her for it. And it's serving her well in this situation with having JW families that will never respect your boundaries as to, you know, letting us, the actual parents, dictate their spirituality. I know the grandparents, the only reason that they moved close to where we lived at in our last community was, and my wife, she finally got somewhat of a confession from grandma, and grandma said the only reason that they're out there is to be closer to the kids, to control them, and you know, in a way, as far as spirituality. That was the only reason why they came out, and she admitted that. She won't admit it now or ever again. I think she just slipped and let that slip. And my wife told me about that, and I was like, you see, that's what I was talking about. But anyway, yeah, my oldest, she thinks all this is funny, and when she showed me these emails and stuff, it was just to, you know, comedic effect, not to, you know, narc or turn in my grandma or nothing like that. She knows, and I know that this is their behavior, and they will never stop. The biggest thing with your kids is to have that open relationship, that open flow of conversation. When your kids stop asking you questions or anybody else, you have failed as a leader. That's a meme somewhere. A famous saying from General Powell, a U.S. Army general from the Gulf War and you know, politics and stuff. That was one of his famous sayings that I took to heart, and it's so very true because I've been in that situation. That if you know, your subordinates or your kids or whatever stop asking you questions, then you have failed as a leader, because they're going somewhere else for those answers. So I keep an open door policy in my household with the kids to you know, hey, this is what's going on. You could talk to me about this. This is what's going to happen. And I've proven it true each and every single time because, like I said, the Jehovah Witnesses are so predictable in their habits that I'm like a you know, magician with telling what the future is going to be, because I could call out all their moves before it even happens. This video is a little bit too long now. This is what's going on. Again, the theme of this video is the Jehovah Witnesses will never stop, especially family, trying to recruit your own family despite, you know, your decision that you don't want to be in it. They stopped trying to recruit me because in the past, years ago, I kind of shut that down at the start. I just shut them down completely to where they don't even want to deal with me anymore. And that was because of my own ignorance, and that's how I dealt with that situation, where the things that I know now, if I've applied it then, could have been a different outcome. But I think it's better for me to kind of engage and sort of work around their dogma and to show them the hypocrisy of it all. Again, this is an example of how JW families and other congregants will never stop trying to meddle into your own family affairs. But it's not working very well in my case, in the JW's case, in my family dynamic, because my kids are wise to the tricks of their trade.